If you don't know me yet, I'm Ashley Fuller Rubin, and I am a licensed practitioner here at this center, and I'm also a ministerial intern, which means that 1 year from now, I will, if all goes as planned, finish my studies and become a licensed minister. Yay! Thank you. And today is my very first Sunday talk ever. And I'm just so happy that I get to do this here with you. The title of my talk today is "This is Why We Show Up." So 23 years ago, I met this woman. She's a very dear friend of mine now, but it seemed like I just met her kind of out of the blue. And I had been yearning for a community, yearning for a place where we were like-minded. We thought the same about life, about spirituality, that there is only love, and we are one. And she said to me, you talk a lot like this place that I go on Sundays. I think you should check it out. And without hesitation, the very first Sunday I could, I went to that center and I walked through the doors of Agape International Spiritual Center in Los Angeles. And I was blown away. The music moved me. The prayers were deep and life-affirming. And the message was inspiring and resonated so deeply in my soul. And my soul was like, you gotta keep coming back. This is not just a one-time thing. And I became a member that day. And I kept coming back. And this is why we show up, right? We show up to be moved. We show up to be inspired. We show up to be uplifted. We show up to remember the truth, the spiritual truth. And I did that for several years. My mouth is getting dry. Vic, did you put that water up there? Where's Vic? Do you know that Vic does this every week? Puts a glass of water up there. Thank you, Vic. I'm very much appreciating this right now. So that went on. I came every Sunday I could to get my upliftment, my spiritual medicine. And after a few years, an event happened. And I was moving through a divorce from my prior husband. And we had 2 little girls. And it was hard. And it was challenging. And it was scary. And I kind of shrank and contracted in my fear in that time. I was kind of a hot mess, to be perfectly honest. And I found myself in what felt like this little rowboat without a rudder, without a paddle, sort of tossed out at sea at the effect of whatever weather there was. And I was moving through this storm, and I was just gripping on as tightly as I could, just hoping I would make it through. And when I was in that place, what I realized was, oh wow, I believe all of these wonderful truths. I know that they're true, but I don't think I've really embodied them because I think I would feel different right now. I think this experience would be different. And that was when I knew I needed to take a deep dive, and I signed up for class. I hadn't taken classes up to then, but I knew I needed that. I needed to take a look at myself, and that was not easy. But I started taking class after class after class and started realizing all of the negative beliefs that I had about myself, about life that were playing out. I'm not lovable. I'm a failure. I'm not enough. And I have to do 150% more to be accepted. What those years in class, and I'm still in class, did for me was they helped me build my spiritual roots, grow those roots deeply into the ground, and expand my consciousness in these spiritual truths that we talk about here. And I am so grateful that I did that. Because a month ago, when my husband nearly died, I was amazed when I heard him speak about it and say that I was a rock. Because years ago, there is no way I could have been that rock for him. And this is why we show up. When my husband was, my partner, was in excruciating pain for 3 days straight, 24/7. It wasn't like just in the waking hours either. It was all night, every 20 minutes. That was hard. I'm not gonna lie, I was holding the space, but it was hard. But I could stand in my knowing. I could stand in principle. I could stand in truth. Knowing the powerful spiritual being that he is, knowing his wholeness, that no matter what is going on, no matter what conditions or circumstances or appearances are going on, that he is whole within himself and powerful. And I knew that his soul was guiding him this whole time, no doubt. So I could stand and know this for him and be that rock that he experienced me as. And when the doctors were standing at the foot of his bed, telling us that he was near time where they would have to intubate, and he hooked up to all of these tubes, still in pain, expressing his stand for his life, saying, "No, I do not want to be intubated." He had to say it several times. And they were looking at him like, is this the pain talking? Is this the illness talking? Is this the pain medication talking? And I knew that I needed to stand by his side for him in this moment. And I was able to do that and say to the doctors, he has been saying this for as long as I have known him. It has been his desire for over a decade not to ever be intubated. And it was in that moment that they got it, and everything shifted because I was able to stand with him there. I can't even imagine who I would have been being years ago. That hot mess that I used to be, collapsing in my fear. I can only imagine I might be at his bedside, begging him to do anything to stay alive, even if it went against his integrity, his own soul's knowing. But I was able to stand in these principles that we are infinite beings, we are eternal, that even in transition, the soul lives on, is ever expanding, ever evolving. There is no real death. And I knew that we were surrounded in love in that room and brilliance. What it felt like I had become over all of this time of my spiritual study and diving into class and every workshop and every circle that I could attend was I came out of that rowboat and was now standing as the captain of my ship, able to navigate any storm with confidence, with the calm assurance that our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, talks about, that calm knowing, weathering any storm. This is what I live from today. This is what is possible here when you steep yourselves in these teachings. So this is why we show up too. And we show up for the love. We show up for the celebration. We show up for the joy. We show up to share together, for the fellowship, for the sisterhood, for the love, for the sharing, for the caring, for the support. That's right here in this community. Edith Wharton, American novelist, and if you don't know, in 1921, she became the first woman to win the Pulitzer Prize in fiction. And she wrote, "There are two ways to spread the light: to be the candle or to be the mirror that reflects it." I want to be the mirror today so that I can reflect the light that is right here in this room, the light of this community. When Cliff first got sick and we were still at home, as Elizabeth Manuel so beautifully talked about, spiritual 911, what do? You call your practitioners, you call the people that are gonna pray for you, right? And I asked Cliff, is it okay if I send a message to our spiritual leadership team to ask for prayer? And if you don't know who our spiritual leadership team is, I need a sip. They are our brilliant ministers and our licensed practitioners that stand up here every week giving those 1-minute miracles. And I asked Cliff, what is it that you want them to know for you? And he said, health, wholeness, wellness. And so I sent that email asking for those prayers for Cliff. And the very first email back was from Reverend Tammy. I saw her here. Where is she? She's upstairs, Reverend Tammy. Reverend Tammy's email back was, "We will pray for both of you." Okay, so have you ever been in that experience where you don't even realize the kind of support you need until it's there? Because that's what I felt in that moment. And I felt so loved and so cared for. And those messages from the spiritual leadership team just flowed in from every single one. And not only the prayers, but the offers of support, the love was so uplifting for us. And when we knew that we needed to go to the hospital on Saturday evening, we have 2 fur babies at home, Buddy and Queenie. And for us to really be able to go and have peace of mind, of course, we need our pets taken care of. So I called Bernadette Engel, who lives just 2 streets over, and without hesitation, she said, "Of course, as long as you need, I'll take care of them." And she walked Buddy every single day for us. And I know John Dixon walked him a couple of times too. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you, Tammy. And Bernadette, when that ambulance was out front of our house, and the EMTs were inside the ambulance with Cliff, and I wasn't allowed in there, and I was by myself, and I saw you walking up to get the key. You just held out your arms for me and then held me for a good minute, at least. Felt like wonderful eternity. Thank you. I so needed that. And after the very first night there, it was our first day, it was Sunday, we were in the ICU. And the nurse at the station said, "You guys have some visitors." And Cliff was like, "I'm not ready for visitors." And she said she would see Ashley. So I went out, and it was Elizabeth Manuel, standing there with healthy veggies and fruits. And I don't know if you've ever been to the Royal Alex food court, but this was awesome for us. And I was saying to Elizabeth, "Thank you. You all are so amazing and so loving. And your emotional and social intelligence here is so beautiful to scoop me into the prayers too and hold me as well." And all of the thoughtfulness going on. And Elizabeth looked at me kind of puzzled, and she said, "Aren't all communities that way? Wouldn't that be nice?" Not all the communities I've been in. And so that's kind of when I knew I needed to say something about this, because this is part of the genius that's here in this community. The love, the care, the support. And this is also why we show up, isn't it? To be held in community. When things get hard, we have a place. And I just would love to invite you to just feel into that love right now that's right here in this room. Do you feel it? So many of you came forward and supported us in this time. Sandra Gibbs was my personal Uber driver a couple of nights when I was still getting used to the parking and everything, and you held space for me, Sandra. That was so beautiful. Thank you. Rubin and Trish showed up at the hospital the very night, the crucial night that he almost died, and I couldn't talk to them about it because Cliff told me, "Don't abscond my story." And you know, that's when I knew he was going to be okay. Don't abscond my story. Okay. So we sat together. They held space. Mark and Melanie Wong brought food. Laura McDonald and her partner Jan brought food. And I was so touched by Laura when she said to me, "This is our way of prayer, bringing the food." Dale, brilliant Dale, I don't know where she is now, our bass player, Renaissance woman, bag of mandarin oranges, which is exactly what he wanted. The ways that you all showed up for us were magnificent. Reverend Catherine, your prayers, your words, thank you. Uplifting, helping me to remember the truth. I know that I was able to stand powerfully for my partner because I was held in this community and so deeply loved and so profoundly supported. Sue Edwards, Sandy Roberts, Jackie Gaudreau, Jen Murphy, all of you, your messages, your love meant the world to us. This is what we have here. That is amazing. This is why we show up. And I have to tell you, a year ago when we came and we were checking you out and you were checking us out, mostly Cliff, we had inklings of this. We had inklings of it. The way you were with us, the way you hosted us was phenomenal. And we went home excited. Maybe this is our spiritual home. And since we got here 6 months ago, you've been extraordinary. But it was this experience in this last month where we, without hesitation, know this is our home. Thank you for that. Thank you. This is why we show up. This is why we keep showing up. Because we want to be moved, we want to be uplifted. It's important to be in community, to be able to remember these truths, to grow our roots, to expand our consciousness, to transform our lives so we are no longer in those little rowboats. We are captains of our ship. Not only for ourselves, but for our loved ones, for each other, for the world. Because if there's one thing I know about people who show up to this center, we care about the world. And so transforming our own lives impacts the whole. And it matters. Thank you so much. I love you so much. I truly, madly, deeply love you. Thank you.